Hello everyone, hello and welcome. Today we're talking about the right order of nodes in DaVinci Resolve when color grading. I'm going to give you several options. The first one is like the right one, which I was taught when I was going through a course by a professional colorist. But when going through videos on YouTube, you might stumble upon different methods that might be correct to you, might be better, more convenient to you. So you're gonna need to try it out for yourself. I'm going to give you all those methods, so try and determine which one is best for you. But you're gonna have to bear with me today because I'm not going to be very quick and efficient because of this. Yeah, I'm not able to use a mouse. I will be using a trackpad that I purchased today that makes me not as efficient and as quick as a mouse. But anyways, we're gonna get to the through this whole video nonetheless. So let's open DaVinci Resolve. Right, let's open DaVinci Resolve and continue there. We're going to open our color page and I'm going to explain what I'm doing here. First of all, this is the image in log like it's supposed to be, like it's supposed to look, and we're going to start with the color management. This is as standard as it can get. Color science DaVinci YRGB, timeline color space Rec 709, scene in output color space same as timeline. These are probably the parameters you're going to see once you launch DaVinci Resolve for the first time. And if you haven't changed anything in here, this is what we are going to get. So let's start here. First, I'm going to import the preset of some nodes that I have here, and this is the way which I was taught once I was going through this professional course of color grading, and we're going to go through all of these things one by one. First, we're going to start with not the first node, but with the 9th CST. For those of you who have no idea what this node is, color space transform. Basically, we get our footage in log if we use a good enough camera, and this log image was not intended for you to view the image in. It is only to preserve as much information as possible and for further development in color grading phase. So we need somehow to interpret that footage and to transform that footage from this log looking state to Rec 709, which is the image that we are used to. It is more saturated, more contrasty, and so on and so forth. So we're going to use CST for that. We're going to open effects. As you can see, I have already this effect applied, but you can, for example, let me delete that. You can find in this list color space transform, drag it and drop it on your node that is called CST. And now we need to determine which camera we were using for this. In this particular instance, input color space is Canon Cinema Gamut. Input gamma is Canon Log 2. And we're going to transform that into Rec 709. And output gamma, it depends on what you want, but basically you can select Rec 709 as well, or gamma 2.4, because our monitors were calibrated for Rec 709 gamma 2.4. In Gamut mapping method, we need to change that to saturation compression, because sometimes some colors might fly off through your color space and exceed the maximum values. To counteract that, you need to apply saturation compression. Basically, this is how it looks. If you've never done this before, it is not as difficult as it might seem. Color space transform, input color space, output color space, and don't forget to apply saturation compression. These are the basics. Now, our footage is transformed, but we need to do two things, at least two things to this footage. The first thing is color correction. Basically, we need to correct the image, correct the contrast, correct the balance the image in terms of colors, because if your image comes to you, it doesn't really mean that this image is going to be balanced. That blacks are going to be black, that highlights are going to be neutral, and generally speaking, we want our image to be neutral, unless you are recording your image bearing in mind that this image is not going to be balanced. For example, your subject is lit using neon lights, it is blue all over the place, then you do not need to bring that to neutral territory, and that's why this step is going to be omitted, or it's going to be looking a little bit differently. But mostly for the general purposes, general population, we need to bring our image to neutral state, and we're going to do that in this node. But I didn't use and didn't mention the first node, which is called NR, noise reduction. Basically, we need noise reduction not for every frame of the shots that we're working with. If the shot is noisy enough, we're going to apply noise reduction. If it is not, we're going to leave it as it is. The node is going to be empty. This is simply the node tree that I'm using all the time. It doesn't mean that I'm going to use every single node here and that I'm going to explain every single node. I'm going to just explain you the right order of nodes, how you're supposed to be grading your image. Okay, we're going to select AGG exposure, and we're going to control our exposure using waveform. We're going to find the darkest portion of the image. In this particular instance, it is this little section, and if you pay close attention, this little section is highlighted as well because I hover my mouse over there and the section is going to be highlighted. I'm going to bring my shadows. I'm using my panel, but I'm just using rotating the lift. I'm going to raise my lift, raise my highlights. Also, we need to determine the brightest portion of the image. In this instance, it is this section of the image that is reflection of the light source, and it's not going to be as bright as the light source itself. So we're going to bring it to 896, something like that. And we're going to up our gamma just a little bit. The basic idea of the first step is not to overdo the contrast. We're going to do it later. We just need to determine the highs and lows in order not to go below or higher those numbers. This is like, if we want to address that as accurately as possible, we need to determine the low point, the high point, and upper midtones a little bit to get this low contrast that we're going to alter a little bit later. Now, the next node is called AGG Bal. In this node, we're going to balance the image, and this is done in such a way that we're going to open our vector scope. I'm going to explain it quite briefly because this is not the tutorial on balance. I'm going to go to low, and I'm going to move that blob into position until it is going to reach neutral territory. The same thing with midtones. If you want a more detailed tutorial on how to do the color grading, not just the correct node order, drop me a comment and I'm going to do that. Right. I'm not going to use hues, masks in this particular instance. We're going to move right away to look development and tone development. Let's say tone development. Not the correct term, but anyways, in look, we are going to control our contrast, meaning we're going to increase, to play with the contrast and to receive the right amount of contrast that we need. Once we are happy with our contrast, we're going to move to toning. And tone is playing with colors, basically your color grading. We're going to introduce some greenish bluish colors to shadows, and we're going to introduce some yellowish reddish colors to highlight. Then we're going to go to log wheels, contract that to receive neutral shadows, control that with range and all of that. Again, if you're interested in full breakdown of the things that I do here, drop me a comment. Right. Now let's move to style. I'm not going to talk about that right now. This one is reserved for sharpness, this one is for vignetting, and this one is for film grain. And that's it. The rest is your up to you. Whatever you want to do with the image, you do it, but you remember that the correction is done before CST and grading is done after CST. Why? Because many people grade before CST on YouTube. There are a number of reasons why we tend to color grade after CST. First of all, it is a predictable color space. Let's say you get an image coming from Alexa, coming from Canon, coming from Red. All of those color spaces are different, and color grading in different color spaces, you're going to receive different reaction of your controls, different feedback, and it's not going to be as predictable as Rec 709, which is like the only color space, the uniform color space, the same color space for any camera, because we're transforming those color spaces into Rec 709, so it's going to be predictable. Second thing is, when you color grading different cameras and you developed your look after CST and you want to apply the same thing to different cameras, it's going to behave the same way. But if you do it before CST, it's not going to behave the same, again, because color spaces of different cameras are different. You need to bring those color spaces to something to one color space that you are familiar with and you know how it reacts to your controls. Yeah, the third thing is that it is not as easy to break the image in Rec 709 as it is to break in log, because if you are not an experienced colorist, you're going to push and pull it too far and break something. You might not even notice that you're going to break some minuscule color in the background. For example, in here we see that we have a portion here, my screen out of focus, so we can break this color if we push too far, and you might not notice that when you're working before CST. So those are the reasoning for color grading after CST. Let's look at some different methods that are also popular, and you might stumble upon them when you going through YouTube. First, we need to change our color space. Please click. Yeah. We're going to change our Rec 709 to DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate, and same as timeline, we're going to change to Rec 709 Gamut 2.4 and save. Nothing is going to change for now, but we're going to drop color space transform on this node. As before, Canon Cinema Gamut. Canon, please click on the right thing. Canon Log 2. But we're going to bring it to DaVinci Wide Gamut and DaVinci Intermediate. Now we're going to copy that node because nothing is looking good right now. We're going to create a second node, which we are going to copy our effect to, swap our places, and we're going to bring DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate to Rec 709 and Rec 709 or Gamut 2.4. Let's select Gamut 2.4. We got the same result as before. Our image turned into Rec 709, more contrasty, more saturated image, but all of the color grading is going to happen between these two nodes. What's the point of doing all of that? First node is going to bring our image, our color space, from the color space of our camera to DaVinci Wide Gamut. DaVinci Wide Gamut is like the biggest color space in the world. It was developed by Blackmagic. It is the biggest. You cannot find bigger color space than DaVinci Wide Gamut. That means that every single camera that you received, that you used, is going to fit in this color space. We're going to color grade, to balance, to grade, to everything we want between these two nodes, except for grain, highlightation, glow. All of that is supposed to be done after the second CST, but about that in some other video. So you're going to grade your image in between these two nodes, and then you're going to bring your image from DaVinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. You do not really need that color space anymore, to Rec 709, because this is what your monitor is going to see, what people are going to see, and this is the standard that we all tend to transfer our image into, because all of the monitors and TVs are calibrated to Rec 709. So yeah, the color grading is going to behave a little bit differently compared to Rec 709, compared to previous method, but some people say, professional colorists say, that this method is superior because we are working in the biggest color space possible, because, well, I don't know. You need to try that. You need to feel how controls going to give you feedback, whether it is easier for you to color grade this using this method than the previous one, whether it is better, and then determine for yourself whether you want to do it like this or like the previous method I was talking about. This is the second method. Now let's talk about the lazy one, the third method. We're going to go to color management, and we're going to select DaVinci YRGB color managed. In DaVinci, we're going to select automatic color management, SDR Rec 709. Once I click save, my image is going to be transformed into Rec 709 automatically. Although it is not a raw file, somehow DaVinci knows that it is Canon Cinema Gamut, Canon Cinema Gamut, Rec, and Canon Log 2. Yeah. If DaVinci has some troubles with that, we need to right-click on the image and to specify input color space, Canon Cinema Gamut, Canon Log 2, and then DaVinci is going to transform that into Rec 709. Right now, our image into DaVinci Wide Gamut like before, but we do not need to transform it from one color space to other color space. DaVinci does it automatically for you. You do not need to think about that, and if you have a lot of raw files, DaVinci is going to transform them using metadata into Rec 709 automatically. You do not need to care about all of that, think about all of that. All of that is done automatically for you. And then you balance and grade your image in here without thinking twice. This is a third method. Now, the fourth one, which is going to be quite similar to this one, but like I do it right now, I use ACES CCT. What's the difference between ACES CC CCT? That's for a totally different video. So in ACES, we need to specify ACES version. In this instance, it's 1.3, the latest one. ACES input transform, Canon C70, Canon Log 2. We're going to transform that into Rec 709, ACES AP1 timeline color space, and use color space aware grading tools, and look at the image. The image is going to be again transformed into Rec 709, but a different version, a more contrasty version of Rec 709. ACES is going to treat our image a little bit differently compared to DaVinci Wide Gamut. For me personally, it is easier to color grade in ACES compared to DaVinci Wide Gamut or all of the above I was talking about. So these, and then again, like in DaVinci Wide Gamut, you grade your image in here, balance and grading all in here without, again, thinking twice. There is a trick in using LUTs. You need to double transform your image, but that's again for another video. Again, if you have any questions, or you have or you want me to create a video on a certain subject, or to further explain something that I was doing here, drop a comment and I will do that, not very quickly, but I will do the video, create the video. Anyways, thank you for watching. It's kind of difficult to talk today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one, and goodbye.